seats. Okay. All right, guys, we're live. Welcome to our HomeSmart Thursday, Lost to Found in 90 Days. I'm so thankful that you guys all came. It really means a lot to us. Mike is actually not going to be here today, but he is for sure online, so everybody can go ahead and say, hi, Mike. Thank you for having us. And yeah, this session has just been really incredible. We've been doing every single Thursday. We've had an amazing guest. We have so many incredible Smart Partners, and that's where we're able to get lunch taken care of all of our agents. And our Smart Partners bring us these amazing tools that we can use for our real estate business. So thank you, Skyline. Thank you so much. I think there's calendars in the back that Jean was helping us with. And so, yeah, I wanted to also say thank you to all of our agents for just being so incredible about your referrals. You know, I know that it really, you have to love what you're doing to go and tell someone else to go do it also. And so I get phone calls every single day from somebody saying that they were referred by one of our happy HomeSmart agents, and that just means the world to me. That's my best source of business. And so, again, it just tells me that you guys are happy and everything's going really good. We're doing tools, training, technology. That's everything that we offer. We have the best compensation plan in everywhere and anywhere, and I think if anything, we love our agents, and hopefully you guys love it too. So the training is live. So today we've got people joining us from all over, nationwide. realestatetraining.com is actually our live website that you can go to at any time, and you can actually go back and see some of the trainings. So if you haven't been able to attend some of them, we started, a few months ago now, so we've really racked up a couple. And then share them with your friends too. Share them, go back. I had a webinar playing earlier from one of our friends, Michael Hellickson. I like to kind of get the refreshing of those. So anyways, I did want to say thank you so much to Skyline, and I actually wanted to have Don and Gino come up and speak for a few minutes to what's happening right now with Skyline and what's happening with Skyline and helping HomeSmart, and we've got our HBM tags behind you, so yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, Julie. Thank you, Julie, and thank you, HomeSmart. All right, Don Getling, Gino Fronti, yes, I lost him, now I found him in less than 90 days.
Yeah, for 20, but that felt like 90.
And I want to introduce just a couple other people because I can promise you everyone at Skyline are rock stars. We do not have anybody that is not a rock star, isn't experienced. We work as a team just like you guys do. I'm really proud you guys show up every week to learn and get better and improve yourself, not just in business, but personally. I know we made a transition. Lisa, she goes the same place. All of us join Afterburn Fitness. We literally have, how many of us in our group? Probably 8 of us that go to Afterburn like almost daily. And we've lost, I don't know, what, 500 pounds in our office, I think. Yeah, a couple people less. So there's a lot more room in our office at Skyline, so come by and visit anytime. We have a lot more room. But we're really proud to partner with HomeSmart because you guys are dedicated, really cool peeps. You guys are always training. And these trainings are the bomb, and that's why we gave you those notebooks to keep your notes in. Thank you, Cindy. Cindy's idea, she goes, can you get us notebooks so we can keep all our notes in one place? Nicely done, Cindy. That's why she's you know, an integral part of your team.
Actually really important, guys, is tell us what you need so we can help support you in that, right?
That's for Furman.
This is for Furman. This is for Mike. Hi, Mike. Help us help you, right? Tell us, hey, it'd be really great if I had this tool. It'd be really great.
He's Italian. It's not his
I'm
fault.
loud, Don. I don't need it to be too close to me. Furman will yell at me. So just tell us what it is you're looking for, because maybe you have different needs. Maybe somebody deals with a lot of investors. Well, we have to put together something different for somebody that deals with a lot of investors than somebody that deals with a lot of first-time homeowners. Somebody that says, all my clients don't have a down payment. They all qualify, but they don't have a down payment. Well, then you need more down payment assistance structuring. So everybody has different needs. Make sure to share those with us, and we'll make sure to help you. But I want to talk a little bit about the trainings. We learn something every time we're in here. And even last week with Mike was fantastic because I'm sitting here listening and I'm going, I need to do a family dream board, right? So we could each have our own personal dream board, but it'd be cool to have a dream board as a family. So sometimes it's not all about real estate and what you're going to be doing in the field, but things that you can do at home that'll make your family operate better. Because if home's happy, then work's happy and life's happy. So.
No, that's a good point. And kudos to you, Mike. I mean, we've gone to a lot of different events and a different we chose to partner with Homes because you guys do put a lot of effort and you have the right people and stuff. And Mike, good job with the trains. They're great. Again, real quick, I want to introduce some of our team members so you get to know them better. Behind us, stand up, Mr. Dan the Man. This is Daniel Hunt. He's been with us since the beginning, and a great. Yes, yes, he's a big deal in our office. And then next to him is Scott Crayon, another great. A great loan officer and a good dude. Everybody's good in our office. And then, of course, we just brought on Jennifer, and she's going to help us with business development, meaning helping you with business development. Remember, our goal is not just do loans. We do have loans wired, by the way. Skyline's been around since '85. We close all our loans. We close our loans on time. We take away the stress. We have every program in the book. We know how to structure. We know how to cross-sell you. We know how to help you get your offers accepted because we'll call the listing agent.
That's probably the most important part in a low inventory market, right?
Yes.
Is that right now, I know for a fact, if we make a phone call and you're in a multiple offer situation, we have a much better chance of getting our offer accepted than almost any other lender out here for sure.
It's because we get the job done. So thank you very much for all your support. Again, please reach out to you. You can always go to santacretahomeloan.com if you want to find out more about any of the LOs. If you're not working with one now, please do. We have every way to help you grow your business, and I promise these are good peeps, and we got your back, and we're really proud to be partnered with you.
Why don't you introduce our friend here?
Yes, okay. So we have a group called America's Professional Resource Group from our radio show that we've been doing for over 5 years, and we pick the best of the best. We interview a ton of them, and we find out who really knows what they're doing, who's accountable to us, who's accountable to Santa Clarita, who's a great person, who's involved in the community, who's right for America's Professional Resource Group, and who does our work. We wouldn't refer anybody that we don't use, and we all use Lisa Odom, now with Pool and Shaffery. She's a great friend, plus she works her butt off. I hate following you in spin class. But she's dedicated. She's really great resource for us. Like you said, she handles all our estate planning. She's a great person and going to be a great resource for you, so definitely pay attention to Lisa. She's got great stuff. She's on our radio show almost every month giving great advice. So without further ado, Lisa Odom.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Odom. Nice to meet you all. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks to Mike for having me as well. I actually am Mike's attorney. He told me I could tell you that, otherwise that would be privileged information. And I actually help Mike in both his business and his estate planning matters. And just so that you know a little bit about me, I'm a partner at the law firm of Pool and Shaffery. I've been there since March. Prior to that, I had my own firm, and we were recruited and started with Pool and Shaffery on March 1st. And it's been wonderful. It's been a great experience so far. I love working with the team there. If anybody has ever worked with the team, they're great. It's great. It's just a wonderful firm. So, so my practice consists of a very transactional practice, which means I don't go to court very often. In fact, almost never. I only go for probate. My practice consists of a business and real estate practice. I do a ton of entity formation, so corporate work, LLC work. I draft contracts, review contracts, negotiate contracts, write what I call nasty grams or demand letters. I do real estate purchase agreements. I do a ton of leasing work. So that's my business and real estate side. Basically, think of anything contracts related. I'm your girl. And then I have a very active estate planning, trust administration, and probate practice. And there is a ton of overlap in those two particular fields or practices, which makes me very uniquely suited to do estate planning, especially for business owners, which I'm guessing most of you are business owners, even if you're just operating as sole props. So I have a ton of experience in that and understand the overlap in the issues that are incidental to business owners. My estate planning practice, though, is a huge part of my practice, and truthfully, I love my business practice, love my real estate practice, but my estate planning practice is my baby. I love teaching it. I taught at COC as a professor. It's just a great area. You get to work with consumers. So it also makes me a great source of referrals. I do refer out a lot of real estate work. As it comes in, people want to do things, and I become one of their trusted advisors, and therefore they will call upon me when they need someone. So the way that, and for you guys, the estate planning is important, obviously, for all of you individually, and we'll go into why. But you are selling someone probably their biggest asset when you're representing them in a transaction. Having an estate plan is a huge part of this, and it's a huge way that you can add value to your clients. So it's something to think about. We're going to go through a lot of basics about estate planning today. There should be plenty of time for questions, and I'm guessing it's fine for you to interrupt me with questions as we go. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. And I guess Mike has the clicker, so I'm going to be clicking myself. Unless I get bored, and then I'm going to make Gino come up. Okay. So the first thing is the reasons people avoid estate planning. Does anybody have any thoughts about why that might be? It's scary. Why is it scary? It's scary because nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to die. I would actually say that that is the #1 reason that people do not want to do it. Some people think it's boring. I mean, you get to work with me. I'm not boring. So they don't have time. I hear that a lot. I have a lot of busy business owners, and they will come in to meet with me at 5:30, 6 o'clock at night because that's the only time that they have. I get it. It's busy, but I mean, you got a plan. It's important, so you have to make time for it. They don't understand it. They think it's for old people. I would argue, I am a mother of 2. I have minor children. I would argue it's equally as important, if not more important, when you have minors. You know, your minor children can't own your real estate. They cannot. We can't put them on title, and we wouldn't want to. They're too young to manage real estate, or for those of us who have life insurance prudently, I mean, I wouldn't want to give my children $1 million life insurance policy outright. These are really important issues that we have to face every day. So whether you're old or young, it doesn't really matter. You still need to start thinking about planning. So they think it's only for the rich. That happens a lot, but without question. I mean, when I do my estate planning questionnaire, some of the questions I have to ask are like, where were you born? What was your date of marriage? There's just some background information. And people sometimes will look at me funny, like, why are you asking these questions? And I'm like, well, it could have to be used in a death certificate one day. And that is like the most awful thing to have to say. But listen, death is as certain as taxes, so it's going to happen. So, and then the other reason is the last bullet point, which is they don't know who they want to manage their estate after they die. Picking the guardian for children, I can't tell you how many fights I have to handle in my office over that, and who they're going to give their assets to in general. Like, what if you don't have a big family? What if you have to give it to friends or charity? You know, there's a lot of issues. So, sorry guys, I'm so sorry I don't have a clicker. Gino, I might need you to just do this. Okay, here I got it. So I think the problem is with the word estate. I think that when anybody hears the word estate, they think of a sprawling mansion in Beverly Hills. I'm so sorry. Hello. So you think of a big, I mean, how many of you here think of estate planning, you think you have to be rich? Right, almost everybody. And it's not true. In fact, I would almost say that it's more relevant for people who don't have a lot. You want to preserve it and protect it. So like I said, the problem with the word estate is that you think of a very wealthy person. But actually, estate just refers to any property that you own. That can be your home. It could be an IRA, deferred compensation account, any business interests that you have, checking and savings accounts, stock brokerage accounts, your jewelry, your clothes, your cars, your boats, your RVs. We live in Santa Clarita, so lots of people have those. Guns are another important one. So who has an estate? Who do you think has an estate in this room?
All of us.
Everyone. Yep. Well, and pretty much you have to be over the age of 18, because if you're under the age of 18, your parents really own it, unless you're emancipated. So what is an estate plan? I'm just going to pop all this up. So an estate plan is a collection of documents that explains what happens to you in the event of your death or incapacity. So it includes a living trust, usually. It doesn't have to. It can include a last will and testament and a living trust. Those would be together, or it can just be a will, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then there's also a nomination of guardians, durable power of attorney, advanced health care directives. There's sometimes property agreements. There's additional ancillary documents, but your core documents are your living trust or your will. I'm so sorry. Okay, why do you need an estate plan? Gina? I'm just going to have you put them all up for me.
Yeah.
That way I can talk and not have to worry about it. So why do you need an estate plan? So I think one of the most important ones is to make sure your children have a guardian in the event that you pass away. I mean, I don't think any parent here would say that they would be comfortable with LA County's social workers deciding who their children are going to live with. Also to protect your assets and make sure they go to your intended heirs. So you have to understand that there is some things going on here. You have your natural heirs. So those are if you have children, they're your children, your great-grandchildren, or your grandchildren, then your great-grandchildren, your direct descendants. And then if you don't have any of those, it goes back up to your parents, your siblings, your nieces and nephews, aunts and uncles, cousins. It's called a chart of consanguinity, and if you can visualize, kind of blood relation, what percentage you are related to one of your family members, that's what happens if you have nothing in place. Well, I can't tell you how many times those intended heirs are not people that you would want to give your estate to. Sometimes we have clients who have siblings who have drug problems. We have parents who have disowned our client or have been bad parents, or who knows, or are very, very wealthy. Sometimes they're like, my parents don't need this money. So intended heirs, getting to choose who takes your assets is a really important thing. So also the reason you need it is to have someone to make your decisions for you. A revocable living trust is a really neat device, and so is a durable power of attorney and advanced healthcare directive, because they can avoid something called conservatorship. So something that people often don't realize is, let's say you're driving and you get into a terrible car accident and you are in a coma from the car accident. Your credit card companies, your mortgage, they don't really care that you're in a car accident. They actually don't care at all. They expect their payment on the first of the month, just like, everybody does. Your children still need to live and eat. I mean, it's like the world continues, as you all know. If anybody's ever faced some kind of catastrophe in their life, your world continues even after that. These documents can enable your world to continue without having to seek a conservatorship. A conservatorship is really expensive. It's a court process, a court proceeding that is done through the probate court. It's worse than probate, and we're going to talk about probate in a minute. It's actually worse. So if there's anything worse than probate, here it is. And we don't want that, because it's already a time of chaos in your family. So, and obviously for your medical reasons, I mean, you don't really want somebody random, whoever your next of kin is, making medical decisions for you if you would not have otherwise selected that person to make medical decisions for you. So, and it also just keeps your assets intact and avoids exaggerated tax burdens and avoiding probate. So probate, does everybody here know what probate is? It's a court proceeding by which you get assets to the next of kin or to the intended beneficiaries. It's really expensive. It's usually about 2.5% to 5% of the estate's gross value. People often will tell me, oh, I don't need a trust because my mortgage company owns my house. No, you own your house. They have a deed of trust on your house. But when you have to do something with the property when you die, no matter what. And if you die and your house is worth $500,000 and your mortgage is $550,000, $500,000 still determines the cost of your probate, which is really expensive. It's about $12,000 for just attorney's fees. Then the executor gets the exact same amount. So you're talking about $24,000 off the cuff that has to be paid for to get this house out of probate and through the probate system. Well, that's a terrible result if you want your kids to stay living in your home. I mean, there's, what if you have to sell it because it's an illiquid estate? There's so many issues that come up. So avoiding probate is a really good thing, if for no other reason than cost. There is a lack, and also probate lacks privacy, and we're good. Continue. I'll just pass that one. So the first question is, what happens if you die without anything? The laws of intestate succession will apply. That's what I was just mentioning with respect to, it would go first to your next of kin, your direct descendants, Your spouse, obviously, I skipped a, keep going. There's more. Okay, so if you don't have an estate plan, we're going to go through this one first. If it's community property, so if you're married and all of your assets are community assets, 100% goes to your spouse. Well, in most situations, that is great. That works, and that's totally fine. But what if you have a child from a prior marriage? That child has been effectively disinherited. Just because the child is from the prior marriage does not mean that you would have excluded that child. So that's a really negative result, and it is a result that I see pretty much 10 to 20 times a year. It's a very unfortunate result. For separate property, however, if you are married, 1/2 of your separate property would go to your spouse, and 1/2 would go to your child if you only have one child. If you have 2 children, 2/3 goes to your children, 2 or more. 2/3 goes to your children. The 1/3 goes to your spouse. Well, this might sound more fair, but first of all, most of the time in a married couple, in a married family, it's all community property. Second of all, if you're in a situation where you're married to your spouse and the kids are your kids of the marriage, you actually really want your spouse to have all of it. You would have given your spouse all of the property if they had passed because your spouse is going to use it to raise the children. So it's very multifaceted in the sense that if you let the state law apply, it may not end up giving you the result that you would have otherwise looked for or sought out. So, and the worst possibility is that if we can't find any heirs, the state of California graciously will accept your property. So, yes, they're great. So, I'm going to let Gina put these all up. So there's some other things to think about. Sometimes people are in relationships where they don't ever get married. We see it a lot. And sometimes you might have clients who purchase a property solely in their name, but they have a long-term, could be a domestic partner, could be just a long-term boyfriend, but there's obviously an intent to provide. But there's no common law marriage in California, so there's no automatic rights of your surviving partner to take what there is. Now, of course, all of you as real estate agents know you could take title, joint tenants with right of survivorship. But sometimes, for whatever reason, that doesn't happen. People forget. So there's that issue. There's also the issue of, with respect to medical, and this is something that happens a lot. When you've been in a long-term relationship, usually we have a lot of clients that have this situation, long-term unmarried relationship. They'll want their significant other to make medical decisions for them. Well, there is no natural right for your significant other in that circumstance to make those decisions unless you've set it out in writing. So those are things that happen, and obviously with gay marriage now being approved under the law, this is less of an issue, but it was a huge issue prior to whenever that was, last year, I think it was. So estate plans can prevent that from happening. So the first issue is, do we want a will or do we want a trust? So the advantages of a will are that it'll name all your beneficiaries. It has all the dispositive provisions, who gets what. You can even put a trust for your children in a will. It's substantially less expensive to create. It has a court-supervised distribution of assets. So some people, you just heard me say probate is negative, but in nasty family situations, the court being there is really great. I'm going to a hearing tomorrow where I'm going to have to argue because of a nasty family situation. We're thrilled that we're in probate court in this one, but typically we try to avoid it. So the disadvantages of the will is that it doesn't avoid probate. And like I mentioned, that if the estate's value is actually over $150,000 and increased, your estate will have to be probated. And it's lengthy. It can take anywhere from about a year to 3 years is common to get your money. And what I always tell people, it's a really funny thing about probate. Like, I love my estate planning clients, love my trust administration clients, and I love my probate clients. But I feel like in probate, because they have to wait so long, there's like this pot of money that they can just see and they just look at, and they're like, when are we going to get our money? And they're like waiting and waiting and waiting, and they just keep waiting. And so over time, they're like calling you, they're like, am I going to get my money? And I'm like, yeah, we just got our hearing date, and it's 6 months from now. And they're not very happy about it. And so it's the one area, I mean, it really does. You're going too fast. Go back. So it's the, I'm not ready. But then also significantly, if you have a large estate, it is very, you can't do estate tax planning in a will. So if you have a high net worth client who has a total, and you guys might not ever know this information. We get this information and financial planners get this information, but more and more frequently we get clients who come in and they're just pulling assets out of everywhere, and all of a sudden we have an $11 million estate that we need to worry about, and they don't even know that they have that much. I'm like, do you realize that you actually are over the estate tax? So there's some very complicated and complex planning that we can do to avoid estate tax, obviously for the benefit of your family, but we don't know unless we plan. And you cannot do that through a will. I mean, I'm sure there might be a way, but it's not a typical way. So now we're going to talk about the advantages of the revocable living trust.
It's my favorite part. That's why I wanted to get to it real quick.
You're like, how quickly can we get there? So the advantages are, number one, most importantly, a properly funded trust, and we're going to talk about what that means, avoids probate. It's amazing. It makes things happen so much faster, so much less expensive. Even if you have some legal fees for the trust administration, they will pale in comparison to the legal fees associated with a probate every day of the week and twice on Sunday. You can have a lot of estate tax savings. You also name your beneficiaries in the trust document itself. It's easier to provide for contingencies in your family situation. As I mentioned, there's a lot of blended families nowadays. People get married, they get divorced, they get remarried, and now we have children from prior marriages. That is not the same kind of planning as a couple that's married for 40 years with 3 children, everybody loves each other, and life is perfect. In fact, I would probably venture to say that almost 0 of my families have it completely perfect. Every once in a while I get one that's like, we're all great, and I'm like, wow, that's fun. My family puts the fun in dysfunctional, so I don't know. But it's very complicated. There's a lot of discussing, I spend a lot of time getting to know my clients so I can help them plan for these strange contingencies. And then the other cool thing about a living trust is that it's completely changeable during your lifetime. You can revoke it. You can say, I hate this trust. I'm getting rid of it. Its disadvantage is that it's more costly. You have to remember to keep it funded. And it's arguably more complicated to understand. And I say arguably because I explain it to my clients so that they hopefully understand. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not titillating reading. You're not going to be like, this is a page turner. It's not. My documents are written in plain English, and I would still say it's probably good bedtime reads. So, I mean, it's boring. So some of the other documents that we draft, we do a nomination of guardians. This is a document that allows us to give your next of kin or the people you select to raise your children in the very unfortunate circumstance that you're not able to, your wishes with respect to your kids. It can be done a couple of different ways. I always do it in a separate writing, which is permissible under California law. The reason why is it gives your children, you can say who you want your children to have access to. Sometimes there's family discord. Again, we're always dealing with family discord, but it's not just for discord. We also want to promote family harmony by using these documents as well. If you decide to give, for instance, in my own estate plan, my sister is my chosen guardian for my kids. My husband and I agreed to that. She's our chosen guardian. That doesn't mean I want my husband's family to be foreclosed from seeing our children. Of course I want them to see it. And so there are specific provisions in my guardian nomination that says that those things need to happen. So that's I would say for anybody with minors, that's an incredibly important document. Durable power of attorney for financial management. So your trust, and we're going to talk about how the trust works in a minute, but your trust is going to own most of your non-qualified assets. So pretty much anything that's not a retirement account and life insurance will be owned by the trust. So your utility bills, your credit card bills, your IRAs, your 401ks, they all still get covered by the power of attorney. And this basically enables your agent to come in and step in on those matters in the event that you're unable to. That's why this complete estate plan is so awesome, because it covers everything. It covers the things that aren't covered by the trust, and then it has a way of dealing with the things that are. So, and then finally, we also have an advanced healthcare directive. To be honest with you, I would say that probably, if you really sat down and thought about it, this is probably the most important document. It sets forth what your wishes are with respect to your body in a time when you're unable to make those decisions. And those are decisions that are very personal to you and should be something that you have. I would recommend, even for people who say, I can't afford to do this right now, whatever, you get at a minimum the power of attorney and the advanced healthcare directive, just so that if there's ever a period where you are not able to make decisions for yourself, that you have selected the people you trust to make those decisions, and you don't have to go through conservatorship to make it happen. Those are really important. Okay, so now the trust. Who owns the trust? The people who create the trust are the owners. They're either called the trustors or the settlers, and they own it. They're almost always the initial trustees of their trust. When they pass away, so as I mentioned, most of your non-qualified assets are going to actually get transferred into your trust. You, as the trustee, will manage those assets the way you have. When you do a trust, you're not going to feel much difference in your life after you funded. Life is going to carry on. Not much is going to be different. But in the event that you become incapacitated or you die, the people that you select to manage your estate after you will come in as successor trustees, and they will then manage for you thereafter. And they're generally picked by you. Sometimes that doesn't work out, because what if you selected your 2 kids who are grown and all 4 of you die in the same car accident? So I know I have to sound so morbid, but it does happen, and so that's why we talk about it. So that's how we deal with the trust. So that's kind of the background of the trust. But the most important part of the trust, it doesn't matter how wonderful a writer or legal writer I am, the trust isn't worth the paper it's written on if it's not properly funded. It's super, super important. So as I said, you should think of the trust as your family company. You're the president of the company when you're the trustee. The company owns the assets, and the assets are going to be titled in the name of the company. In this case, it's the trust. This is actually called funding the trust. That's the term of art. And the types of assets that you transfer to the trust are real estate, checking, savings accounts, brokerage accounts, annuities, business interests. And you see I put in red that that's one of the most important and often neglected or not handled properly. Unfortunately, many attorneys have no idea. I get referrals from other attorneys in this valley all the time on the business interest because they don't know how to do it. And then personal property. One thing I want to just elaborate on, if you own real estate in California, it's pretty much an automatic that you need a trust. And that's just something you should know for your real estate practice. Like, again, places that you can add value to your clients and build the relationship and the trust factor. That's something that you should let them know. Like, if they both died, people often think, well, we have it as joint tenants. Is it in the realm of possibility that you and your husband might be driving together and get hit in a car accident? Unless you tell me you are never together, it's unlikely. I mean, I had this really weird story. My daughter had a really good friend whose mom had cancer. The woman died of cancer. It was breast cancer. She was very young. I want to say like 38. Her husband, and they had like 3 kids together. Her husband dies like 2.5 months later of lymphoma. Had no idea he had it. What were the chances that both parents in their 30s were going to die of cancer? Almost slim to Santa Clarita. So that's why I'm saying you never know. It's never too early to plan, ever. So, but there are assets that we can't put into the trust because mainly you would have immediate tax consequences, and nobody wants that. Specifically, 401ks, IRAs, deferred comps. Those are tax-deferred accounts. We would never put them in the trust. That does not mean that they aren't considered as part of your estate plan, though, in general. We also have annuities, pension plans, autos. We don't recommend you put your autos in there for liability reasons. People see that if they see on your insurance card that you are a trust owner or that you have a trust, they think you're a deep pocket. Most of my clients that do trusts are not what I would call uber rich. They might be comfortable, and not even all of them are comfortable. Some of them are paycheck to paycheck. So But the key to trust funding is organization. You got to get a handle of your assets and what you have. I can't tell you how many of my clients come in and they're like, I think I have life insurance here, and I'm pretty sure I have an old 401k from there. You got to pull it together. It's really important to fund, because if you don't, I'll tell you what's happening. We had a very, very, very wealthy client pass away. She died of pancreatic cancer, and she died within 2 weeks of diagnosis. And she was as healthy as can be until she felt something wasn't right in her stomach, went to the hospital, pancreatic cancer, 2 weeks later, gone. In fact, she was not even lucid a week later. So it went fast. Pancreatic cancer is a really nasty cancer. So she had attempted to do a trust on LegalZoom. Sounds great. I really love LegalZoom. Said no lawyer ever. So she attempted to do it, and it was a colossal fail. Nothing was funded properly. So the day before she died, thankfully, the only good thing that happened was that she had appointed another trustee. The other trustee had the foresight to come see me. We got her house funded into the trust literally the day before. I had somebody from some escrow company walk it into LA County, recorded that day. They sold the property after that, and we had to go through all the title issues with respect to doing a power of attorney. We had to record the power of attorney, then record the trust transfer deed. I had to go through we had to do all sorts of letters and things so that we could get this through, but we didn't want to have it probated. So we got that asset through. We did not get the house in Pennsylvania, or not Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, somewhere else. We didn't get that one funded because we didn't have time. She died the next day. But there was a series of banking assets, and there was a lot of money in those, upwards of $2 million. And luckily, they were referenced on the schedule, but they weren't referenced completely. We were able to get them referenced completely, and then we had to do a HEGSAD petition to get them in, which means that we had to use a truncated probate procedure to get it put in. That's all great, but guess when our hearing is? Like, this has all been going on for like several months. We couldn't get a hearing with the probate court for 5 months. So again, remember how I was telling you about that pot of money just sitting there? Just $2 million just hanging out, doing nothing. We can't invest it. We have no rights to it at all. It just sits there, just sitting, waiting. So these are important issues. So how do you begin? What's the process? You make an appointment. You fill out an estate planning questionnaire, usually with me if you see me. You gather your documents. Like I said, you have to have all of this good information. You don't have to have it usually for my initial consultation, but you have to have a sense of how much your assets are worth. You meet with the attorney to discuss your wishes. You draft your estate planning documents, and then you do your signing, and then most importantly, you do your funding. And most important for me is I think funding is so critically important that I spend a lot of time with my clients on funding. So that's the process. So now I just want to open it up to questions, and usually this topic elicits lots of them. So anybody have any questions or things? Yeah. Sure.
Power of attorney. There's an expiration date on that?
A durable power of attorney or special? Yeah, that's for a specific purpose. Okay. So the type of power of attorney we do is a durable one. The reason it's called durable is because it will continue being usable when a person is incapacitated, and it does not have a time deadline, except that the death of the grantor in a power of attorney, it's done at that point. It terminates. But yeah, special means it's for a limited duration or limited purpose, usually.
It states limited purpose, but it doesn't state
the purpose?
A date.
Oh, well, that's because it can be used, so the date is almost irrelevant. Obviously, the person has to not, I'd have to look at it to tell you, but it's for a specific purpose. So it can be, as long as it's being used for that purpose, it can be used. Durable is better. But usually that's in a very specific circumstance. Yes, Don?
All right, for you guys who haven't worked with Lisa, like you said, it could be scary, but I'll tell you it's really nice working with someone who's so sweet and nice and you ask the right questions. Because when you don't have an estate plan, Gina and I have learned this, because it took us a while to get our butts in there and get it done. But what's amazing when you get to the and she goes, okay, bless you. When you go over the details, why don't you go over some of there's a lot of questions that you don't think of when doing an estate plan. I know you kind of touched on that, but it was amazing. Some little things I'm like, holy crap, I didn't think about the animals or whatever.
Right.
You know, that type of thing, and who it goes to, and who handles what. And it really makes you think differently than it just going to anyone.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions on there that people are often surprised by. Like most people, we don't think about it. So automatically we think we have 2 kids. I'm going to divide my estate between my 2 kids. Well, my kids are 10 and 7. I don't actually know what kind of people they're going to be. They might go through a couple years of awful. They're going to be teenagers. I mean, we don't know. I mean, I hope that they're wonderful. I think they're wonderful now, but I mean, who knows? So also, for those of you who have ever met with a financial planner or an insurance agent, I have significant life insurance, as do many people. When is an appropriate time for my children to get that much money? Those are things that you have to think about. So we ask, when would you want your kids to get it? And we have a lot of discussions about age 25, age 30, age 35, and when you're predicting children who are 10 or 6 or 4 or 3, you just don't know what kind of people they're going to be.
Yeah. So we did, as Don mentioned, we went through the process, and I called Lisa my what if person. And you've heard some of these. What if this happened? Then what? What if that happened? Then what? And there are things you don't want to think about necessarily, like, hey, what if you all die in the same plane crash? Well,
that's the worst one.
Okay, well, I'm just saying it's possible. Those are things that could happen, or things like, are you sure this is everything you own? You don't own anything in a different country or something? I was like, oh yeah, I do. It's just those kinds of things that also make you think about things that are important. Like you said, animals. Shoot, I have an army of animals. I don't think I addressed them specifically. I'm like, just somebody think.
And that's what happens. I mean, it's very practical in a trust administration. If you don't put some people have, but there are some people who the animals are extremely, extremely important, and those are different than. So I literally have drafted trusts for animals.
Yeah, my name better not be on yours.
No, this is evil, evil, evil.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Oh.
So if you create a living trust and many years later you open up your own business, how do you, is that business covered in that living trust, or do you have to go back and amend it, or?
It's a good question. You don't
Repeat the question for the audience.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. She asked if you create a trust and then you open a business down the road, do you have to come back to have it amended to include the new business? So not technically. There is a broad provision that says any of your after-acquired property should also be included. Now, as I remember, I just mentioned that we had to use the truncated probate procedure. It's called a Hegstad petition. It's under Probate Code Section 850. Under that particular code, it is better if it is specifically written in your trust. So what we recommend our clients do is about every 3 to 5 years, you look at the schedule that's attached to your trust and let us update it. It is a nominal charge. Sometimes, honestly, if my assistant can do it, I just have her do it and send it out and pretend like nothing ever happened. But it's really important. Your business itself does not necessarily necessitate an amendment, except with a huge caveat that if your business is a business that's potentially sellable down the road, well, then it's a business that's an asset that you might want to be a little bit more thoughtful of how you get out of it when you die or you just want to retire or whatever. And then we need to do some different kind of planning called business succession planning. So that's a different, and it does fall within the ambit of estate planning, but it's a little, so yes, it could necessitate a change, but it depends on a lot of circumstances. Each person would be different on this. But you would also want to make sure that your stock ownership, if you had a corporation, was owned by the trust. If you have an LLC, your membership interests were owned by the trust. If you have a sole prop, you want to make sure that the trust is the owner of the business. So it's still an important thing, and a lot of my clients, when they are doing something, frankly, most of my clients come to me for that stuff because I have the overlap. So, but if they didn't come to me and they just called me later and said, hey, I did this, I'd be like, okay, well, this happened recently. One of my clients, who was my business client, didn't know I did estate planning, so he used somebody else, which is totally cool. But when he came back, I was like, oh, hey, I noticed that you told me you did a trust, but you didn't put your stock certificates in there. I don't know how that got out, how that wasn't included, but if you bring me your binder back, I'll take care of it, and we did.
Okay,
So yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely, yes, I do. I do entity formations, a lot of them, day in and day out. I've worked with Mike on them. I've worked with numerous people on them in this valley. So essentially, we can set up a corporation, an S Corp or a C Corp for you. We can set up an LLC. Some of you might have some clients who are buying investment properties to rent, especially residential real estate. I mean, this is the most litigious state in the entire union. You know, if they're buying rent, if they have the kind of money where they're able to invest in multiple properties, they should be investing in an LLC so that they don't have to worry that their other personal assets are going to be subject to their tenants. That's really important planning. Again, a place where you can add value. It depends on your relationship with the clients and how much they let you know. But LLCs can be a huge, I mean, most of you have probably dealt with LLCs in real estate. LLC is kind of the chosen device in real estate. However, not for agents when you want to have a corporate entity to funnel money, to funnel your commissions through. Usually the S Corp is the better device for that. Obviously, each person is different. Obviously, you have to coordinate with your CPA. But most of my realtor clients who have done corporations or any type of entity formation, it has been an S Corp because that is a more, it's just more tax advantageous for many, many, many reasons. So depending on how much money you make, most of my clients who are in the 125 to whatever range usually save a pretty significant amount of money by doing an S Corp. So that's why they do them. So we do a lot of that. We do a lot of sophisticated structurings too. For instance, sometimes we have partnerships, as you talked about. Sometimes we have two corporate partners who are getting together to do a joint venture, maybe to open another new business. I mean, the reason that the structures get like this, I mean, I have some structure charts in my office. I have one that's like this big. I have a client that has 28 companies. And the reason it's like that is for liability, to limit their liability and exposure, and to not allow the creditors of one corporation to get at the assets of the other. So it's a really, I mean, the structure can get very complicated. This is a $100 million company. That's why we have so many corporations. Most of us wouldn't have that. But there are reasons sometimes where even a smaller company might have multiple layers. You have to think about liability issues. Obviously, as agents, you have, usually I think you have E&O insurance, I'm assuming. So you have some protection, and insurance does get you part of the way there. But you never know who the person you've harmed is in California. And I can tell you, I'm involved right now. I have a client who's suing her real estate agent for, I don't do litigation, but our firm is going to be involved in it because the real estate agent did something wrong. And so, I mean, it doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen that often. It does happen on occasion. So these are ways that you protect yourself. Does anybody have any questions about that? Yes, ma'am. Or a probate question. Go for it.
Because being involved in probate, when I'm working with an investor and they want to go to probate court because they like the property, how long can that take? And now if the probate court accepts the offer, from how long at that period of time does it take to record, and does the buyer get to take possession?
So it depends on, there's a lot of factors I would have to know. If they have independent authority to act, like when I do a probate, we always seek independent authority. That way we don't have to go to the court for permission. My probate, like I have like 4 right now that have homes that are being sold. All of those are 30-day, 45-day escrows. They're standard escrows because we don't need court permission. I've actually never done one when you had to have permission. I have seen them, though, many times at probate court, and they're awful because there's bidding usually. So you have, that's actually kind of fun to watch because you just see the prices going up and up and up. But there's usually bidding. They usually have to have pretty strong cash offers. So that can take longer, but I had a client who just bought a really beautiful mansion in Beverly Hills out of a probate, and that closing, he had to have the cash for it, and it took 15 days. So it was really fast. And the probate lawyer, though, she was so mean. I mean, it was like, I have to have this right now, and I was like, okay. So she was just psychotic, but.
Who decides the probate? Because I was getting involved in the transaction. No, I'm not going to mention names. But in this transaction, the heirs, because he died without all
Right.
So the heirs hired someone to take care of the estate.
Oh.
And what, an attorney actually, and what happened was instead of paying the mortgage, there was an excess of 50 to 60,000 in the bank to take care of everything. That attorney spent that money and did not take care of the mortgage
What?
or the HOA. So they had a first, and now they have a lien on the house, and the house is in probate. Now the heirs are trying to get this person. But oh yeah, she also took out the renter of the house that belonged to the father,
Wow.
cleared it out, and did not tell the two heirs. Now they're trying to. It's now in. Let's see, they're going to be foreclosed on September the 26th, and now they're trying to. They filed a TRO.
Yeah.
They're now trying to get a lis penance put on it to try to
Stop
the whole
the
thing.
foreclosure.
So
That is what we call, I don't want to use any foul language, that's bad.
Yeah.
So that's really bad. And that sounds like someone actually engaged in misconduct
Yes.
that rises to a level beyond what we would normally see. I obviously don't run my business that way. So if you ever bought a property from, one of my probate executors, you would not have that experience. You would have a standard 30 to 45 day escrow.
Because now it's it's in
That's bad.
foreclosure.
There should be a way of getting an ex parte or some type of expedited procedure with the probate court, but I would have to know a lot more information to advise on that.
So yeah, I'm probably going to refer them because I feel really bad.
If they really want the
know them.
property, or is this the actual heirs?
This is the actual heirs.
Oh.
And this is now that they found all this out, they're trying to stop it. I mean, now it's really to the point where, as you know, when a bank is owed money, a lender is owed money.
Yeah, they're not nice.
They unfortunately don't care.
They don't care.
Want that assets, because that asset's probably worth about $675,000.
Yeah.
And the saddest thing is totally $50,000 and $178,000 is what's owed on it.
Wow, that's a significant amount of equity. Well, this is a perfect example of why you
I
plan.
mentioned it.
It is. It's a very serious thing. It's a really important thing. Does anybody else have any questions?
How do agents sign listing agreement if the property is in a trust? Or how should we sign
The trustees should be. Your client will sign as trustees. So when you pull title, you guys normally pull title when you are taking a listing, right? I had a horrible probate issue with an agent who didn't do that. It was a cluster. So always pull title. I mean, you guys have access. Usually these awesome title companies will give you access. Talk to Julia. But yeah, if your clients own it as trustees of their trust, they need to sign as trustees. It's really important that you're consistent with that because it is owned by the trust. So good question, Julie. Oh, perfect. So so it's easy. You should know.
One of the things you guys, the cool thing about working with Lisa is that she's an expert in real estate, so she understands our world, which is really key to an attorney trying to figure it out. She handles very complex real estate transactions.
My experience is right out of law school. I did very well in law school, and so when I graduated, I was given a job at one of the top 10 law firms in the country, and then after that I went to another one, and in that one I worked in their real estate group, and I closed some extremely sophisticated commercial transactions, including commercial loan transactions. So I really got to see a side of real estate, and real estate is, I love it, and there's so much overlap in the estate planning and real estate and business world that my practice is just crazy integrated. People ask me all the time, like, what do you do more of? And I'm like, I couldn't even tell you. One day I might be doing trust administration all day. The next day I'm drafting like 9 contracts. Like, it just depends on the day. I have an estate planning client come in all the time. I mean, I've had a lot this last couple of weeks. People, I think the end of is it time?
So less common in loans, but more common in real estate. But we have like Don and Gino, but in real estate all the time partnerships.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so how do those things get done? need special agreements. Did we have to go through a lot of questions? Did Dawn and I do the
Yeah.
punch list?
Yes, you did. How's that punch list coming? Yes, in real estate, when you do, there is a lot of partnership work that's done amongst, I mean, probably some of you here have done things with other people. You should never, okay, I don't want to be crass, but like you usually like to know who you're going to bed with before you go to bed with them, right? That's critically important in a business transaction. If you're going to be partners with someone, you need to know who they are, what they're all about, and if you hammer out these details in advance, you're way less likely to have disputes down the road. And disputes down the road are extremely costly, and frankly, they usually end up in litigation, and they usually make people absolutely hate each other. And I don't know how well all of you know the community. I'm assuming pretty well as realtors. This is an extremely small community, so whenever I hear a partnership discord, I don't always hear about it just in my office. I'll hear about it at Dancing with Our Stars or at a Single Mothers Outreach event or wherever I am at that particular time. So these things, if you nail them down in advance, you will never regret it. You will never, ever be like, gee, I wish I hadn't done that. You've got to think about the fact that when you go into a partnership with someone, like I'm just going to use Dawn and Gino for an example. Gino's married. If Dawn and Gino are partners, but let's say Dawn hated Nella, which isn't possible, but if he hated her, he doesn't want her to be the business partner, but that's his natural heir. That's his wife. That's community property. What did I say if they have no estate plan? That all goes to her. Well, if Dawn doesn't like Nella, then what happens? So these are things that you can think about in advance when you are planning ahead, and it's really, really important because, like I said, I'm telling you, everything I say comes from experience. I have a lot of clients. I see a lot of different crazy things in my practice, and there are so many times where I'm like, oh, we've just done it this way. That you never want to hear your lawyer thinking that. No, I wouldn't say it to them, but I'm thinking, why didn't you just do this? So it's a good idea to always plan ahead. I mean, basically the entire point of this whole session is plan, plan, plan. You will pay way less if you do it in advance than you will if you do it when it's falling apart. So, anything else?
Thank you so much.
We are actually having lunch hosted by Skyline, so seriously, thank you. I mean, all of this has affected all of us, right? I mean, I now have a 2 o'clock appointment with Lisa because every single thing that she went through, the marriage, the blended families, the passing away, the pancreatic cancer, I mean, all of that is something that I've dealt with, so I can't imagine what all of our clients are dealing with, and you guys as partnerships and teams. So yeah, this was absolutely so incredible. Thank you. So you guys got a ton of value out of this today, right? Okay, good. And then, yeah, so we're just going to have some lunch. And thank you again to Skyline. We really appreciate you guys bringing all of our notebooks and everything. And so basically, we'll be doing this every Thursday. So next Thursday, we'll be here back again, 10:45. And that one's another secret guest because usually Mike's got all of you guys kind of planned and waiting. And we've covered so much. We've covered now the attorney stuff. We've covered health, wealth, and we'll just keep going from there. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.